would like to introduce myself. I'm Samuel Kenney, actually from Ghana, and a medical doctor by profession. Currently, I live in Germany with my wife. So I would want to project what I want to talk about. Okay, so today I would want to talk about facing your fears head on. Facing your fears head on. And my core message is fear doesn't disappear when you avoid it. It fades when you face it repeatedly. Stammering is not the enemy. The fear of stammering is. So I've been a stammerer for as long as I can remember. From childhood, ever since I was growing, I realized my speech wasn't as normal as my siblings because I come from a family of 9. We are 7 children, and I'm the sixth born. And it turns out I'm the only stammerer because it's believed that when my dad was young, he was a stammerer, and by the age of 14, he stopped stammering. So there was this belief that when I also grow, I would grow out of the stuttering. But that hasn't been the case for me. So I always used to count down that, oh, maybe at age 14, the stammering will leave. At age 15, it will leave. At age 16, it will leave. I kept on counting and counting and counting and counting. And now I'm about 30 years old and I'm still stammering. But then there were certain things that I think if I had learned earlier, it would have really helped me. Because when I was growing up, I avoided public speaking. I come from a very religious home, so we attend church services a lot. And whenever there was the opportunity for me to do something in church, I'll be like, I can't do it. I I was always hiding myself from public speaking, and also I think my family should have helped me back then. They should have pushed me, but then instead they shielded me. So that's one thing I think they should have done, as in push me to stand in front of the crowd and not shield me. Yeah, so growing up, it was really a struggle in class. Whoever who is from Ghana knows that in Ghana, the stuttering education hasn't gone that far, and people would easily make fun of you. So in class, I found it very difficult answering questions in class because they will make fun of you. And also in senior high school, especially, it was just too much. I couldn't contain it any longer. And they gave me names like nonverbal, as in I was nicknamed nonverbal. Others also used to say, "Sir, he can write, sir, he can write." Because whenever I'm asked to answer a question, I'm unable to speak out. I will struggle and struggle. So the teacher, especially in the biology class in senior high school, he would say, "Then Samuel, come for the marker and write your answer on the board." So then everyone was calling me, "Sir, he can write." Yeah, so um so it took a very emotional toll on me, and I started contemplating suicide. And others also went as far as telling me that we don't think you can get married. Who would even marry you? Which lady are you going to marry? You don't even know how to talk. But surprisingly, I was in a single sex school, all boys in my class. It turns out I was the first to get married, surprisingly. And so I would want to also talk about the turning point, as in where I got tired of hiding. In university, when I went to university, I didn't school in Ghana. I schooled abroad, and it was more of like an international community, and we had a Christian fellowship. So I was asked to be the campus representative, more of like a campus pastor for my university. And they gave me this offer 3 times. And for the first two, I declined, all in the name of I being a stammerer. I can't be organizing Bible studies for my campus members. As in, it was very difficult for me. Meeting people was so difficult for me. So one of the experiences that I had, which really pushed me, was when I was asked to lead a congregational prayer. And usually it was about 1 hour. I felt like my world was crashing on me. The entire week I was thinking about it. Should I decline? Should I accept? Should I decline? Should I accept? So finally I went in for it. And on that day, I think the number of the congregation was about 200. I went to stand in front there. I took the microphone. I was in front there. I think for the first 7 seconds, I couldn't utter a single word. I was like this. I could, and everyone was just staring at me. It was so humiliating. But then that's what stammering wants. Once you give stammering what it hates, it begins to leave you. Stammering doesn't like you standing in front of people to talk. That's what stammering hates. But once you begin to give stammering what it hates, it begins to leave gradually. So that was when my confidence began to grow little by little, little by little. So as you can see, courage isn't the absence of fear. It is taking action despite it. So then my third point is speaking through the fear. Speaking through the fear. Also, in my professional life, I've faced a lot of challenges, especially being trained as a medical doctor, then working as a junior doctor. It hasn't been easy, especially in my earlier days. It was really brutal, especially general ward rounds. So usually we have ward rounds, you'd have to go around checking on patients, and we had specific days where we call general ward rounds, or maybe major ward rounds or whatever, where we have the professors, the senior consultants would all come around. You'd have to present your cases, and to make matters worse, you'd also have students as well. The medical students would all be around. So during this moment, I can go and stand by my patient and I can't even utter a single word. I'm so tensed. One thing which held me was I later on devised a means. So I used to approach the professors. So first of all, I'll tell the person that I'm a stammerer. So this sometimes worked for me because I realized that many of them were very considerate. So instead of letting me present the entire case, they would say, well, they would just ask me some few questions and how was it and that, and it made everything simple. But then well, there were a few that even when you tell them you're a stammerer, they didn't really care. I had one experience like that. She told me she doesn't care. So then I would also move on to the fourth point, my pillar and my faith, the strength behind the voice. So one thing I can say also helped me a lot was my wife. Before I married her, she made me understand that stammering was okay and that I was okay. That's what she always made me understand, that stammering was okay and that I was normal and there was nothing wrong with me, because I always used to question myself, question my worth and all. And for me, I had no formal therapy, I had no professional support system. Yeah, but through the encouragement of my wife, and I also drew inspiration from this scripture in the Bible about Moses, when God was calling him and he told God I am slow of speech and tongue. But then God didn't remove the mission. He still went on with it. So I had this understanding that God doesn't call the perfect speaker. He empowers the willing one. So I would also move on to my to the other point, which says fear is a liar. Fear is a liar. So the lessons I have learned so far, is that confidence changes everything. So it's something that we have to build it daily. We have to be intentional. Stammering, I can say, has really hindered me a lot. It has hindered me a lot because I remember in junior high school, there was a time they wanted to propose me as a school prefect, but then what my teachers told me was that you stammer, so we can't make you a school prefect. Even though you are academically good, you are this, you are this, you are that. No, you can't. We are sorry. And it's really hindered me a lot. And also growing up, I hated certain meetings like group discussions. Ah, I just didn't like it. And also at church, Bible study meetings, I will wait till Bible study is over before I'll go to church because I have to talk. So I was always hiding myself. But then it got to a time I realized that Sammy, you'd have to just face it. You've got to face it head on. And that was where I realized my speech began to improve. It began to improve. Even though still, as at now, I still get very anxious. Very anxious. Even before this presentation or this talk, I was a bit anxious and all. Yeah, but I think gradually my speech has improved. Now I don't really think so much and get worried if maybe the following day I have a presentation at school, I have a presentation at work, or I have to do something. I don't think so much about it. But in the past, I'll spend the entire night thinking, thinking. And also one thing I also realized was that there were also times that I would even go for that presentation or that meeting, and I realized that it wasn't as difficult as I perceived it would be. So one thing I would want to tell anyone who is listening to me is that stammering doesn't like embarrassment, but then you have to give it what it hates. Stammering wouldn't want you to stand in front of people to talk, but that is exactly what you have to do in order to gain that confidence. In the beginning, it would really be frustrating and even sometimes people will pass comments that would really make you feel very bad. There was a time in university where one lady told me I talk like a drunkard. I speak like a drunkard, but I wasn't discouraged at all. So my last point is the victory. Now I speak. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect. So today I speak publicly with far more confidence than I ever imagined. Yes, I still stammer. I'm anxious sometimes. Absolutely. Even now, I'm a bit anxious. But I've learned to walk through the fear and not around it. I no longer wait to feel ready. I show up, speak, and let the words come out imperfect. So, for all that I'm trying to say today is that as stammerers, it's very difficult for us going out there, trying to stand in front of people, trying to initiate conversations. It's very difficult. It's also something that I struggled with a lot. I struggled with it a lot. In childhood days, whenever I'm sent on errands, everyone here knows that in Ghana, as a child, they will usually send you on errands. Oh, go here, go and buy this thing, go here, go and do this. I always went along with my little sister. So she became my Aaron, talking on behalf for me because It was very, very, very difficult. So first of all, push yourself out there. It is difficult, but start it. Once you do it, you realize that your speech would improve. You can even try to join debaters club. Just do the extreme. In the beginning, it's so difficult, but at the end of the day, you realize that your speech has really improved. Now, I don't even worry about going for maybe visa interviews and all that. I don't think about it any longer, but in the past, it was a very great hurdle for me. Thank you very much. I think I'll bring my presentation to an end here.
Samuel, what an inspiring presentation. There's so many things that you talk about that we can use. I loved how you talked about walking through your fear, not around it, and you encourage us to show up, just to put ourselves in these situations where we could potentially stutter. We might have to speak, by taking risks. That's such an important um, that's an important concept, an important life principle. And don't wait. Don't wait for the day where you no longer stutter or you're fluent or whatever. Don't wait. Do it. You know. But the question I have: so when your colleague compared your stuttering to a drunken cat, what exactly does a drunk cat sound like?
Well, I
I've never heard that expression. You sound like a drunk cat. I don't know. Wow. That's out there. So, you are a medical doctor, correct?
yes.
Dr. Samuel. So, how do you, um, disclose stuttering to your colleagues and to your patients? Do you tell them that you stutter?
Yes. So first of all, I try to tell them that I stammer. So they should kindly bear with me. Yeah, because I had an experience. I think during housemanship, I was taking the history of one child from the mom, and she actually thought I was a student because my speech was very slow. And usually, students are quite inexperienced. So she passed that comment, and a colleague heard it, and then she went to the doctor's room to tell my other colleagues, and some of them were laughing actually because I'm being questioned. Are you a student? So it's sometimes very humiliating. And it varies. There are days my speech looks good, and there are times I just don't know. I just don't know why it's so. But I have times that my speech would be quite okay, but also sometimes I have a lot of blocks.
What has been one of the highlights, one of the high points of your medical career as far as stuttering, as far as speaking, when it was just a high point?
Okay, so it's usually when you'd have to do presentations because they are every department. When I was doing my housemanship, especially, you'd rotate through different departments like the surgical departments, the obstetrics and gynecology departments, and when you have a mortality or if a patient dies under your watch, you'd have to do a mortality presentation. And this brings other professionals, sometimes from different hospitals, and they're all there. And even people who don't stammer are very anxious. How much more you, the stammerer? So those were very, very difficult moments for me. Very difficult moments for me. But then I tried to pull through. Yeah, I just try to pull through, and I think it all helped me. There were times I would pray I wouldn't be the one presenting; it should be another person, but then it will be me. then I have no choice. I'll have to go and stand there. I have a lot of blocks. People will just be staring at you in a certain way. And then after that, you feel very sad. You go home, another day would come. So that's how it's been.
What was the turning point into your positive outlook on stuttering? The
Okay,
turning point in your life?
okay. So for me, I'd always known that stammering was really hindering me. It had become a blockade. Yeah, and I had to find a way to get over it. So I once met another person in university. He was from a different country, Zambia, and he told me he used to stammer as well, but he got over it by forcing himself joining the debaters club in his school. And that was how he got over stammering. I was like, wow.
Debaters Club.
Yes, debaters club. He went to the extreme, and I could see him preach at church, and I'm so amazed. You wouldn't know he even stammers. Then I also said, well, I would also have to push myself. So his story really inspired me, and I tried it, and I realized it's working. So I try as much as possible not to turn down offers, as in, Sami, come and do this. Sami, can you hold this presentation at church? Can you do this? Can you do that? I don't turn them down. In the past, I used to give flimsy excuses. I would just give excuses.
Right, right.
There were times I don't even have duty. I'll tell them, today I have duty, and I'll intentionally miss church. But then I started accepting it and all, and it's really helped, honestly. Even though sometimes you stand in front of the congregation or you stand in front of the people, and maybe for the first 5 seconds you can't talk, but once you push through, it flows. It really flows. Yeah.
Wow. What does a meeting of a debaters club look like? Because I've never heard of this type of club.
Okay, so generally in Ghana, in senior high schools, we have um we have clubs. So maybe they would group themselves and then take a particular topic, probably a doctor and a farmer. I'm just trying to give the most basic of all, a doctor and a farmer. Who is more important? So you'd have
Oh,
to argue your point out very strongly that a farmer is important than a doctor, or a doctor is important than a farmer. Yes. And they do go for regional competitions and at times national competitions.
wow.
Yes. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it's quite intense. And for a stammerer to join a debaters club, well, I haven't joined one yet, but he joined. He's called Clinton. I think I would have to talk to him or reach out to him so that he could also share his experience as well. But now he's he's I think he's even opened a kind of speech. I've forgotten, like an association or something whereby they train people on speech and all in Zambia. So recently I saw a video of him on Facebook where he had gone to a certain bank and he was training them on how to do public speaking and all.